fourth graders. This is Mr. Huang again, and today we're going to start lesson 2 for our Illusion of Depths collage project. Now last week we talked about the 5 different techniques to create the illusion of depth in your flat artwork. We talked about this acronym right here, SODIP. S stands for size, overlapping, details, intensity, and placement. Today we're going to be focusing strictly on placement. And now placement really is going to dictate how size is changed, how you use overlapping, and how many details things are in your picture based on placement. Now notice I didn't talk about intensity because we're actually going to be skipping intensity for this project and focusing on how placement changes size, how you use overlapping, and how you add details to your artwork. But I did want you to know that intensity was one of the techniques. Now for this project, you're going to need some supplies like paper, just a pencil for today, scissors, and a glue stick, and something to cut out of to get some images. I'm going to be using this magazine that I have lying around the house. You can use a newspaper. This is an optional thing, by the way, and I'll talk about that when we get to that point. But the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to turn our paper into landscape orientation, which means that the width is longer than the height is right here. Some of you may call this hot dog orientation, but technically it's called landscape orientation because this is the way most landscapes or pictures of land are drawn. So we're going to turn it here, and the first thing after we turn our paper is we're going to very softly draw a line across the middle of the paper from left to right, and we're going to call this our horizon line. Our horizon line is very important, and just for this exercise, this note-taking exercise, for simplicity, we're going to call everything above the line the sky. We talked about this in the last notes, but everything above the line is the sky, and everything below the line would be the ground. So this horizon line would be where the sky meets the ground. Now, the whole point of today is talking about placement. So I'm going to just talk about how you place things, and depending on where you place an object on this picture, right here on this piece of paper, it's going to determine how large or how small something is, and how many details or lack of details there are. And we're also going to be talking about overlapping later. So for step number 3 in your instructions, it says at the very bottom of your paper, you're going to draw something very big and add lots of details to it. You can either draw that right now, or you can find an image from a magazine or newspaper. I'm going to go ahead and find an image to use from a newspaper. And I'm going to be doing it both ways, where I'm drawing sometimes and where I'm grabbing images, just so everybody can see the possibilities for this project. So I'm going to grab an image that is large. So I'll look for something that I can find that's pretty big and has lots of details. All right, let me see if I can find something. Okay, I could draw people. So for instance, I'm gonna take this image of these, looks like beekeepers maybe. I'm gonna take this out of the magazine. And I'm just gonna loosely cut this out. I don't wanna take any words or anything. I'm just gonna cut these people out right here, and I'm gonna use them to take notes for today. I'm using this picture because it's one of the first ones I saw in the magazine that I had, where the subject was really large and you could see a lot of details in it. And so this is going to be glued at the bottom of my paper. Because one thing about placement that you want to keep in mind and always remember while you're doing this project is the further something is placed away from the horizon line, the larger it's gonna be, because it means it's closer. So I'm gonna put this down here. Now, when I say it's far from the horizon line, the top obviously touches the horizon line, but we're talking about the bottom because these people are gonna be on the ground. So I have to measure the bottom down here and place it. The placement would be at the bottom, which means it's far away from the horizon line right here, which means it should be big and have lots of details in it. So I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna just glue it really quickly. I will glue this down. Remember, our project is going to be a collage, so it would help if you can find images in magazines or newspapers, but if you can't find images in magazines or newspapers, or you just don't have any lying around, you can always draw something on a piece of paper and cut it out and glue it. So here we go. Now, step number 4 says, next, draw something or glue something similar to what you drew or glued down in step number 3. So I'm going to draw or glue something similar to this. These are people, so I can draw people. But this time, I'm going to be making them smaller. And since they're smaller, there'll be less details. And I'm going to draw it closer to the horizon line because this is about placement. So I can simply draw, I'm just going to draw little shadows of these people. And notice I'm not adding any details to it because they're far away, because they're close to the horizon line. And because they're close to the horizon line, you would not be able to see the glasses that you can see right here in the face and all those little details, lips, teeth, clothing. You'd probably just be able to see the outline of these people. So I'm just going to make something very quickly and loosely. And it's not getting covered up, so I might be able to just draw an outline of these people's legs, maybe. So notice this drawing that I just made is closer to the horizon line, so it would be smaller, less details. Step number 5 says at the very top of your paper, so now we're in the sky, at the top of your paper, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna pick something to put very large into the sky. So let's say I'm gonna draw everything this time. So I'm gonna make a basketball. So because it's at the top of my paper, I'm gonna make it really big. I'm going to draw some details in it because it's gonna be at the top. And I'm just gonna add some details, like maybe I can see letters of the brand in it. Maybe I can see the textures in the basketball because it's close to me when it's placed at the top of your paper far away from the horizon line. Now I'm not gonna draw all of them, but you guys can get the point that you can see the little textures in, if you've seen a basketball before, how there's those little bumps in it. So I'm just adding a bunch of these, and I'm just gonna stop in a minute just because you get the idea that you can see it. And step number 6 says, next, draw something similar to what I drew in step 5. So I drew a basketball, so I'll just draw another basketball, but this time I'm gonna draw it close to the horizon line. And because it's near the horizon line, you might just see a little dot even, because it's so small. Basketball is tiny, so when it's close to the horizon line, it's gonna be extremely tiny, maybe a little tiny little dot. Okay, so at this point, I just wanna take some notes about placement, because as you get, if you're in the sky, as you get closer to the horizon line, things are big when they're far away, and they get small as you get to the horizon line. If you're on the ground, the same thing happens also. If you're far from the horizon line, things are big, and as they get to the horizon line, they get small. Big means you'll see more details. More details. And as you get closer and they're small, there are less details. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is finding images to overlap something that you've already drawn or glued down onto your paper. So I'm going to find another image from a magazine, and I'll probably find something medium sized, nothing too big, nothing too tiny, because I want to just show you, we've been using extremes. We've been using the top and then towards the horizon line, or at the bottom and then towards the horizon line. But I'm going to pick something in between now. So I'm going to try to find another image. Okay, I think I found these rhinos right here. So I'm just gonna rip this image of rhinos out for now. And I'm just gonna cut one of them out, just as an example. And remember, you don't have to be perfect about it. These are just notes again. Now, a rhino is easily a lot larger than a person. But because of the size of this rhino is small right here, I'm gonna have to glue it somewhere close to that horizon line, but not too close, because we know if it's close to the horizon line, it's gonna be tiny. And we know rhinos are a lot larger than people. So we're gonna have to find a place somewhere to overlap. So I'm gonna put it right here in front of the people that I drew. And I'm gonna place it there. So this is placement. And I'm gonna just put a little glue on this and overlap something that I drew or already glued down. And that just shows you that overlapping, when it's covering up something, it shows depth, because it says one thing is closer to the viewer than something else. And that's what depth is all about. For this next project, you're going to be taking these notes about placement and seeing how it affects size, details, and how you can use overlapping to create your own original piece of artwork using a collage technique. That means you're drawing, you're cutting and gluing things with things that you find in magazines, newspapers, or if you draw something and you cut it out and glue that down. But you're gonna get to choose your own subject. You get to pick whatever you wanna make a picture of, as long as you're able to demonstrate the illusion of depth in your flat artwork. So once again, you're gonna be using these notes that you take on this sheet right here and apply it to your next project. Now, if you have any questions, make sure you can send me a message on Google Classroom. I'm also gonna be available for office hours on Thursdays every week until the end of the school year, from 1 to 1:20. Make sure you try to keep up with this project, and I hope you enjoy it. I can't wait to see all the creative things that you come up with. Until that time, I'll see you, and good luck. Bye-bye.